So Michael Carrick is the new manager of Manchester United, or at least he is until the end of the season. The goal is clear. United need European football for the next campaign. We need to score more goals and we need to concede less. It's pretty simple, right? So if you couldn't tell by my tone, it's not simple. Carrick has a very difficult job on his hand at Manchester United. However, what he does have is a very decent squad, a lot of pretty decent players who I think can do a lot better than what they have done so far. The question is, how is Michael Carrick going to set them up? Well, we discussed this in a video the other day, and we were talking about how Carrick often likes his side to start in a 4-2-3-1 shape, a little bit like this, but as the team moves forward in possession, they will move into more of a 3-2-4-1. Certainly, that was very much his idea with Middlesbrough. That was the shape that we saw pretty much all the time. However, you may remember Michael Carrick has actually been manager of Manchester United before, for a previous interim role on a 3-game stint. And during that period, we actually saw some different ideas. We saw United often lining up in a 2-4 shape in possession and also a 3-1 shape. Combined with a 3-2 shape that we've seen at Middlesbrough, it sort of suggests that Michael Carrick isn't fixed to one shape necessarily, but perhaps one idea in how he wants to play. Now, Michael Carrick's idea is a patient one and also a possession-based one, which isn't particularly surprising for a manager who was previously a player, who was a midfielder who liked lots of touches of the ball. Now, what Michael Carrick will look to do with Manchester United is, in the first phase, try and play us in a 2-4 shape, and he will keep it very, very simple in the first phase, with obvious profiles playing obvious positions. We will see 2 fullbacks in the wide zones, we will see 2 centre-backs at centre-back, and 2 central midfielders in midfield, which is immediately probably an upgrade on what we've seen so far this season. And in the first phase, he will demand patience. He will ask his team to take risks on the ball, to play under pressure, but to look after the ball. During his first interim spell at United played Arsenal, and in the first half of that game, Carrick's side actually had 57% of the ball. But a lot of that was actually sort of possession round the back, circling the ball round the back line, trying to keep possession, trying to find a way through the Arsenal press. So Carrick, unlike Ruben Amorim, probably won't ask his side to go long in the first phase as much. I don't think we will see such frequent long balls towards the front line. Instead, I think we will see a more patient approach, trying to move the ball through the first phase. But I do think if Carrick wants to be successful, he will have to accept sometimes we can't do that. This squad is not used to being asked to play in the first phase, so sometimes I think Carrick will need to accept you've got to play long. So I think a mixture will be key. I want to see us predominantly being patient, trying to play through, but occasionally we will need to use that long ball. Now, in terms of the idea of playing through the first phase, I think the great thing for Michael Carrick is that he will have very different profiles to what he did during his last interim stint. We've got much more technicians who are capable of playing in the first phase. Mazraoui, when he is back fit and firing, he is very capable. Luke Shaw is very capable. Lisandro Martinez, Aiden Heaven, Kobbie Mainoo. These are all players who are very good in the first phase, which we didn't really have the luxury of using last time under Carrick. So I do think this idea can evolve a little bit simply because of better player quality. United have more technicians in the first phase, but again, it's not perfect, so sometimes we will get it wrong. We will make mistakes in the first phase, that is to be expected, but also sometimes we do have to accept we've probably got to go more direct. Now, you guys might be getting bored of these interruptions, but I am back again just to ask if you guys could please subscribe to the channel if you like the content. We're aiming for 90,000 subscribers by the end of the month, and if you haven't subscribed, I need your help. Now, if Carrick's idea is to work, then eventually Manchester United will get the ball towards the halfway line, will be in control, will be dominating possession, and we will see a change in the shape. We know initially it starts off as a 2-4-3-1 like this, but I think we are likely to see the left back moving further forward, the right back tucking in a little bit deeper, and United now lining up like this. In a pretty familiar shape, to be honest, for these United players. They will understand a lot of these roles, but I think the responsibilities that they are given will be quite different. They will know the zones of the pitch, but the way that they are asked to play will be very, very different to Ruben Amorim, despite now a similar shape. Now, we covered a lot of this in a video the other day. Different ways that United would look to play through the middle of the pitch, but also different ways that United would look to move the ball out wide. Make sure to go and check out the video, by the way. It will be linked in the description. My first sort of brief breakdown of what Michael Carrick might look to do. Now, something we covered in that video was staggered movements in the middle of the park. Close proximity players, enabling United potentially to move the ball through the middle quite quickly. Something else I think we will see under Carrick, and we saw again during his first interim spell at the club, is a focus on wide play, but focus on overloaded wide play. Players very close to each other in these wider zones. So if the ball is on the right hand side, I don't expect to see this player isolated initially. I expect to see players over towards them. That can be a central midfielder, that might be a supporting fullback, the 10, the striker, lots of players given the license to come and play and combine in these zones. You can see that again in that game against Arsenal, lots of Manchester United players close to each other on one side, and again in this situation here, and eventually it leads to United scoring a goal. It was actually really good, quick, fast play with these players close to each other. Now, of course, for that to work, you need runners. We've spoken about that so much recently. If you want to get on the ball, if you want to get the ball to feet, someone else has got to be going in behind. So for this player to be able to come into feet and receive the ball, this player's got to be making that run beyond. And I think that is something that Carrick will look for. But the other thing worth mentioning is the space that you now get on the far side. See, if there's loads of players here, it means there's not going to be very many over here. And something that Carrick has looked to do is sort of create 1v1s or 2v2s on the far side of the pitch. And this is where United might be able to be successful. So yes, initially sort of combining, playing short, close proximity football on one side, but then switching to try and find the isolated player on the far side who can then sort of have that license to attack. Now the question is over whether or not United have the profiles for that. Cunha's not a dribbler and Mbeumo's not a dribbler. Ahmad is probably our best bet, so there is a question over which side of the pitch we will see him on. But I think this is something which United can do quite well. I think we've got the players for the close proximity. We've got the players to then play the switch. It's then about, can we beat that man? But I do think we will see quite a fluid United side under Carrick. A patient side looking to build possession, dominate the ball, progress through the pitch quite slowly. But hopefully then in the final third, we're going to see these players close runners off the ball and a focus on combination play, individuals coming up with quality. Now, I expect a good attacking performance from Manchester United in the second half of the season. We've got Ahmad and Mbeumo returning, which will give us more quality out wide. And I think in general, we've got some very, very good players. Sesko is a bright, young, talented forward. Cunha's a great player. Bruno Fernandes, Mbeumo, Ahmad, Kobbie Mainoo with them as well. We've got plenty of good forwards. And I think Carrick's, at times, slower, patient football might allow these players to actually knit together a little bit better because they'll have more time to get closer to each other before then combining. Hopefully playing a less rushed football should allow these players to combine. My bigger concern with Carrick and Manchester United is defensively, because we can't defend. One way or another, we can't defend. This season so far, I feel we've been good on the high press on goal kicks. But apart from that, I think we've been poor. Under Ruben Amorim and also under Darren Fletcher. Our high press in open play is poor. Our mid block is poor. Our low block is horrendous. And we can't defend our own box. Amorim's solution to that was often to drop an extra player back to go to the back five. But that, for me, that didn't help. We just had more bad players in the box. For me, United have to be a more front-footed team. The question is, what might Michael Carrick do? Now, what I've decided to do for this defensive research is purely focus on his interim spell at Manchester United, because that sort of gave us an idea of what his instant ideas were. And United need instant right now, right? So what we saw from Michael Carrick early on was quite a passive approach defensively. Now, we do have to consider he had some very difficult games. He had Chelsea, he had Villarreal in the Champions League, and he also had Arsenal. So it was a difficult run for him to come into. Now, what we saw in the first couple of games was quite a passive 4-4-2. So we saw lots of players behind the ball. But I think what's important is that it was compact. We've seen passive Manchester United teams before that still leave lots of gaps, big gaps between players. What we saw from Carrick immediately against Villarreal in the Champions League was a compact 4-4-2. The far side winger regularly sort of tucking in and helping out. So if the ball was this side, the winger doesn't stay wide out of the way and lead these channels of space. This player was coming inside as well and helping Manchester United to condense the middle of the pitch, which hopefully should see some improvement. It's less space for these central midfielders to cover because their wingers are tucked in closer to them. So I don't like that it's more passive. I don't like a passive approach. I like to see United on the front foot. But if it at least means for once we are going to be compact, I do ultimately feel that it would be an upgrade. Now, as Carrick sort of progressed through the 3 games, he finally got to Arsenal the last game, and we did see a more aggressive defensive approach. We saw a much more front-footed approach. When Arsenal were playing out from goal kicks, Manchester United actually really pushed a lot of men forward and went for the high press. So it would start in a sort of 4-2-3-1 press, and eventually become a front two, but not in the way that we expect in modern football. In modern football, if a team presses with a front two, what we normally see is a midfielder jumping a little bit higher and then a centre-back stepping into midfield. We've seen that so many times. But Carrick's approach was a little bit different. He asked his wide player, Marcus Rashford on that occasion, from the right side to come in and play as the extra centre forward, and a fullback would connect from the back in a sort of hybrid pressing fashion. So in one moment he's sort of responsible for this winger, but he does have that license to connect a little bit higher. This allowed United to play with intensity, it allowed United to play high up the pitch to press Arsenal, but without vacating an important part of the pitch. Our three central midfielders were still all pretty central, and our two centre-backs were still deep, not dragged into midfield. So that idea from Michael Carrick was quite interesting. Now, since then, I've seen some Middlesbrough fans that were concerned with the way that Carrick defended. I think there were moments where his side were a little bit vulnerable in transition in particular. I think this is one of the things that Carrick is going to have to get right. During his first stint as interim at United, it was passive initially before going aggressive, but it was always actually quite compact, quite pragmatic, and sort of got the job done in some really big games. Now, as I said right at the start, this is a big challenge for Michael Carrick. Not because I think the squad is poor, I really don't think it is. Are they daft? Did they make some silly decisions? Of course they do. But I don't actually think the squad is too bad. I think it's a strong squad. It needs recruitment, and Ineos need to actually do their job and back their manager for once. And that's where my bigger concern lies, sort of above Michael Carrick. It was the same under Fletcher, it was the same under Amorim, and it was the same under Ten Hag as well. It's the people above which has sort of created an uncertainty. United have sacked a manager, United are out of the cups, United have had an interim, seemingly with no plan on who the next manager is going to be. That's why this is difficult for Carrick. Not because the squad is bad, but because Manchester United Football Club is bad. For Carrick, what he needs to do is get the basics right immediately. The players have to be working hard, sort of. Something that Amorim got really right was the players' intensity, the players working hard for each other. We need to make sure we build on that work that Amorim did. Beyond that, tactically, I think we need to start by getting a lot of the basics right. Defensively, we've got to be compact. That doesn't mean deep. You know, that doesn't have to mean lining up in our box. Absolutely not. But it's got to be compact. Players have got to go together. Players have got to understand their roles. And again, put that hard work in. We need to find a way of reducing the individual mistakes. There's an argument for Carrick prioritising some of our best defenders over our best ball players. That might be something that he looks for to sort of stop the immediate defensive rot that we've got at the club. On the ball, I'm quite confident and have quite a lot of belief in Carrick's ideas. I think at times they might be implemented in quite a simple fashion initially, which is fine when we've got so many quality players. I think that sort of basic balance will give them what they need, the tools that the players need to go and perform and express themselves and score goals. So I'm confident on that front. Overall, you can probably tell I'm a little bit apprehensive, I'm a little bit unsure, but that's just everything Manchester United right now. Like I said at the start, Carrick's job is simple, the target is simple. European football next season. We have to have it. We cannot have another season where we are only going to play 40 matches. It would be unforgivable. So it's a big job for Carrick. It's a big job for the players. I'm worried. I'm anxious. I'm a little bit apprehensive. I'm a little bit nervous. But I do still think we've got enough quality in the squad and in a good tactician now with Carrick to get what we need. So this season cannot be a throwaway season. It's now time for the squad, the manager, the coaches to knuckle down, get the points that we need and find ourselves in Europe next season. That is the challenge, that is the task. Are we going to do it? I hope so. I certainly hope so. But for now, it is very much a waiting game. So yeah, we're gonna wait. So stop the video. Thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed this one. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.